My name is Samuel. I'm 104 years old, and I've outlived almost everyone I grew up with. People like to explain that with one word: genetics. It runs in your family, they say. You must have good genes. I used to nod when people said that. It was easier, simpler. But the truth is, it never felt right to me. Because I knew my family. I knew their habits. I knew how they lived. And many of them didn't live as long as I have. Not even close. So I began asking myself something quietly over the years. If it's not genetics, then what is it? That question stayed with me for a long time. Not as something I needed to answer immediately, just something I kept noticing. Patterns, differences, the way certain people aged and the way others didn't. And what I came to understand slowly is this: longevity is not something you inherit. It is something you shape without realizing it. Not in one big decision, in thousands of small ones. Most of them so ordinary you don't even think about them. When I was young, I didn't think about living a long life. That wasn't a goal. You don't wake up at 25 and think about being 104. You think about work, responsibility, building something stable. And that's how I lived. Nothing extreme. Nothing designed for longevity. Just a steady life. I worked. I ate what was available. I moved because life required movement. I rested when the day was finished. There was no plan behind it. But there was a pattern. And patterns matter more than people realize. I remember a man I worked with in my 30s. Strong man, stronger than me. He exercised more, took better care of his body in the ways people talk about. But he lived differently in other ways. Always rushed, always tense, always carrying something in his mind. Work problems, family concerns, things that followed him everywhere. Even when he sat still, he didn't look settled. And I remember noticing that. Not judging it, just noticing. Because I felt different. Not better, just different. My life was not easy, but I did not carry everything forward. When the day ended, it ended. That was not something I planned. It was just how I lived. And I didn't understand the importance of that until much later. Because the body listens to more than what you do physically. It listens to how you carry your life. And that man, he didn't live long. Not as long as anyone expected. And that stayed with me. Not because it scared me, because it made me curious. What actually keeps a person going year after year? It's not strength alone. It's not discipline alone. It's something quieter, something that builds slowly over time. The first thing I began to understand is this: Your body follows your daily rhythm, not your occasional effort. People focus on what they do once in a while, a good week, a strong effort, a new routine. But the body does not respond to what you do occasionally. It responds to what you repeat. If your days are rushed, your body learns tension. If your days are steady, your body learns balance. And that balance becomes your normal. I never lived in a rush. Not because I was trying to avoid it, because I didn't chase everything. I did what needed to be done, and then I stopped. That stopping matters more than people think. The second thing I understood is this: the mind shapes the body more than people admit. This is something I didn't believe when I was younger. It sounded like something people say without thinking, but I've seen it too many times to ignore it. People who are constantly worried, constantly thinking ahead, constantly holding on to things, their bodies reflect that. Not immediately, but over time. Tension becomes their baseline. Rest becomes difficult. Even when they are sitting still, something inside them is still moving. I learned to let things go earlier. Not perfectly, but earlier. If something happened, I dealt with it. And then I left it where it belonged, in the past. That habit protected me more than anything else I ever did. Because carrying everything forward is exhausting. And exhaustion over time wears the body down. The third thing I noticed is this: consistency is more powerful than intensity. I was never extreme, never the strongest, never the most disciplined in a visible way, but I was steady. My days looked similar, not identical, but similar enough that my body knew what to expect, and the body responds well to that. It doesn't like chaos. It doesn't like constant change. It likes rhythm, and rhythm creates stability. At 104, my life is simple, very simple. I wake up early. I move slowly. I eat when I'm hungry. I rest when I'm tired. Nothing impressive, but it has been consistent for years. And that consistency built something I didn't see forming. But I feel it now. But there is more to this, because what I've learned about longevity goes deeper than habits, deeper than routines. It has to do with something people misunderstand completely, and it took me many years to see it clearly. By the time I reached my 80s, I had already outlived many people I once thought would outlast me. Stronger men, more disciplined men, men who took better care of themselves in ways that looked impressive from the outside. And that's when the question became louder in my mind. What is it, really? Because it couldn't just be luck, and it couldn't just be genetics. I had seen too many exceptions for that to make sense. That's when I began noticing something deeper. Longevity is not only about what you do, it is about how much resistance you carry. Resistance to life, resistance to change, resistance to things not going the way you planned. Most people don't think about this. They think about food, exercise, sleep, but they don't think about how often they're quietly fighting their own lives. I've seen it again and again. People holding on to how things should have been, how someone should have behaved, how life should have turned out. And that should becomes a kind of tension, a constant friction between reality and expectation. And that friction wears you down. Not all at once, slowly. The body feels it, the mind feels it, even if you don't notice it directly. I didn't live that way, not because I was wise, because I learned early enough that life does not follow your expectations. And once I accepted that, something changed. I stopped fighting things that had already happened. If something didn't go the way I wanted, I adjusted. Not immediately, but eventually. And that adjustment kept me from carrying unnecessary weight. Because resistance is heavy. Acceptance is lighter. That may sound simple, but it changes everything. There was another truth I began to understand as I grew older. And this one is even harder for people to accept. You cannot outwork a life that is out of balance. I've seen people try. They push harder, do more, add more routines, more structure, more control. But if their life is not balanced, all that effort becomes strain, and strain over time leads to breakdown. Balance doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means nothing is pulling too far in one direction for too long. You rest enough. You move enough. You think, but not constantly. You care, but not to the point where it consumes you. That balance is not something you achieve once. It is something you return to again and again. And that's what I did without realizing it. When something felt off, I adjusted. If I was too tired, I rested. If I had been still too long, I moved. If my mind was too full, I gave it space. Not perfectly, but consistently. And those adjustments kept me steady. There is also something else I need to say. Something people don't like to hear. Longevity requires letting go of control over how long you live. That sounds strange, I know, but it's true. The more you try to control every outcome, the more tension you create, and that tension works against you. I never tried to live to 100. I never had a number in mind. I just lived the day in front of me. And that way of living removed a kind of pressure. The pressure to achieve a certain outcome. Instead, I focused on how the day felt and how I carried it. That made a difference I didn't understand at the time. But I see it clearly now, because people who are constantly trying to control the future often forget to live in the present. And the present is where your body actually exists. Not in the future, not in your plans. Right here, right now. And if you are always somewhere else in your mind, your body feels that distance. By the time I reached my 90s, something had become very clear to me. Longevity is not something you chase. It is something that happens when you stop working against yourself. When your habits, your thoughts, your pace, all move in the same direction. Not perfectly, but steadily. And that steadiness carries you further than anything else. But there is one more part of this. The part that explains why so many people misunderstand longevity completely, and why they keep looking in the wrong place. If this is making you think about your own life, even a little, you're already seeing what most people miss. By the time you reach 104, you stop asking how long you will live. That question fades. Not because you stop caring, because you understand something more important. It's not how long you live. It's how lightly or heavily you carry the time you have. And that is what most people misunderstand about longevity. They focus on extending life, adding years, but they don't pay enough attention to how those years feel while they are being lived. Because a long life that feels heavy is not the same as a long life that feels steady. What I've come to understand is this: longevity is not something you build directly. It is something that grows quietly when your life is not working against you. That's the truth no one explains clearly. It's not genetics. It's not luck alone. It's not one habit or one decision. It's alignment. When your daily habits, your thoughts, your pace, all support each other instead of pulling in different directions. When that happens, the body doesn't have to fight as hard. It doesn't have to recover from constant strain. It simply continues. And continuation is what creates longevity. At 104, I am not strong the way I once was. I am not fast. I am not capable of the things I used to do. But I am steady. And steadiness is something that builds over time. Because I did not live in extremes. I did not push myself to the edge and then try to recover. I did not swing between doing too much and doing nothing. I stayed in the middle most of the time. And that middle is where the body feels safest. There is something else I need to say. Something that may not sound like advice, but it matters. You must learn how to end your day. Most people don't. They carry the day into the night. The conversations, the worries, the unfinished thoughts. And when they lie down, their body is still holding everything, still reacting, still tense. I learned to let the day end, not in a formal way, just in a quiet way. When the day was done, I stopped thinking about it. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough that my body could rest. And rest is where recovery happens. Not just physical recovery, mental recovery, emotional recovery. Everything resets during rest. But it can only reset if you allow it. If you bring everything into the light with you, the body never fully settles. And over years, that matters more than people realize. Another thing I came to understand is this: you must be willing to live an ordinary life. That may be the hardest part for some people, because many people want something more. More excitement, more achievement, more recognition. And there is nothing wrong with wanting those things. But chasing them constantly creates a certain kind of tension, a feeling that what you have is not enough yet, that something still needs to be added, that life is still incomplete. I did not live that way, not because I lacked ambition, because I was content with enough. Enough work, enough connection, enough movement, enough rest. And that sense of enough removed a kind of pressure that many people carry for years. Because if you are always reaching for more, your body stays in a constant state of reaching. It never fully settles. And a body that never settles wears down faster than one that does. At 104, my life is quiet, very quiet. I don't move quickly. I don't fill my days with activity. I don't try to prove anything. I simply live, one day at a time, in the same steady way I have for years. And my body continues to follow that rhythm, not because I found a secret, but because I stopped searching for one. That is the final truth. There is no single secret, no one thing that explains a long life. There is only a way of living, a way of moving through your days that either supports your body or slowly works against it. And most people don't notice which one they are doing, not until much later. If I could say one thing to you, it would be this: pay attention to how your life feels, not just how it looks. Because how it feels is what your body responds to. Every day, over and over again. And eventually, that becomes your life. If this stayed with you, even quietly, then you're already closer to understanding it than most people ever get. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.